Not really that into Halloween. This video will contain mild spoilers for Weapons, but nothing that's not in the trailer. Weapons is a 2025 film, yes it's current, we're not doing nostalgia this week, written and directed by Zach Kreger. At 2:17 one morning, a class of kids from the local high school all leave their houses and run off with their arms out like that and disappear, and the film tells the mystery of where are they. My wife and I are going to attend a Halloween party where, quite rightly, costume is pretty much compulsory. It's like, you can come as whatever if you like, but really just dress up because we're making a huge effort. And I think with the current movie, it's now or never, isn't it? You want to go with the zeitgeist. Right off the bat, I should acknowledge this is an adult horror film, and there are some kids who watch these videos who might be scared. I was very scared of horror films when I was a kid, and I think a lot of horror film directors were. Horror and comedy, that desire to manipulate people and make them feel a certain thing via editing and acting and sound design, and they're not a million miles apart. Certainly not in Weapons, which in places is a very funny film. So who are the characters? I will be dressing as Principal Marcus Miller, played by Benedict Wong, not this version of him, and my wife will be playing the lovely, cuddly, old, slightly eccentric auntie of the one lad who didn't disappear from that class, Gladys, played by Amy Madigan. Because why wouldn't you want to dress as that?
My name is Gladys. It's so nice to meet you. Oh!
Icon diva mother has arrived. So Marcus and Gladys cosplay. At one point in the movie, Marcus goes through a change and afterwards has some black and red liquid on his face. I may even tone down the red liquid in my video like they do in trailers on YouTube. Like if you watch the trailer for It, where there's a load of black liquid coming up out of a sink. It won't be black when you see the movie. But on YouTube they make it black because you mustn't see lots of hemoglobin. You see, we're all a bit scared on YouTube these days because you worry that because these decisions are made by robotic algorithms, not people, if I say the word blood too often, is that scary? I wish it asked you, is this okay for kids? And I would say yeah. But it says, is this made for kids? And I suppose this isn't made for kids because it is a grown-ups film where there are some red bodily fluids, also black, like black slime, like bile. Good stuff. But when Marcus goes through his change, not only does his arm stick out like that, he gets these big bug eyes, and I thought that would be a fun mask to try and make. Will it be fun? Let's see now. Ooh, Halloween! Yes, I do use this bit because these are the things you need. A Ringer t-shirt and some transfer paper, a navy blue zip-up hoodie, a black shaggy wig, lots of foam clay, some eye stickers I thought I'd use, a Ferrero Rocher display orb, some plastic eyes from Home Bargains I think, a polystyrene head, and a V for Vendetta mask. The cheapest mask there is. That cheapness will prove a problem, so stay tuned. Counteracting cheapness. I want to make this elastic slightly thicker and slightly tauter, so the mask is tight to my face. Spooky stuff, sorry. So I'm decided that because I'm going to cut the bottom half off, actually I can move the strap up a bit so that the pull is more centered on my eyes. Just cut a higher up slot, got some slightly thicker elastic, and I'm sticking it with goth glue. Most gothic of the glues for Halloween. And then I'm putting this on and pulling the elastic round to find out what is really tight, so it really sucks onto my face, but it gets a bit problematic later. These plastic eyes, love them because they're quite rigid plastic balls. They're smaller and tougher than a ping pong ball, so I bought a new bag of eyes. They fit inside a Ferrero Rocher display orb, so what I'm thinking is to cover them with clear plastic when I'm done. Using the display orb stalk to centre some pupils, because it was an idea I had, and then I bought these eye stickers because they were suggested at me, and I thought I can paint irises, but let's have a go. So after having cut the eyes in half with my pyrography tool, I'm just doing a tester one where I stick the eye on and then cut all around so it becomes tabs, and you can just slightly overlap them and that will fit onto the outside of a sphere. Good boy. And it works fine. I'm doing blue eyes because I have blue eyes, and this is, I'm thinking, me if I was cast in the role of Principal Marcus Miller, rather than cross-playing as an Asian man and dressing up as Benedict Wong, because I'm too white to be Wong. kind of pun that gets a post-it note. Imagine forgetting that. So white I can't be Wong. So already in just half an hour we've made something functional, comfortable and stylish. Drawing a dark ring around the iris, because apparently the most attractive eyes have a dark ring around the outside of the iris, but it's not for me to say. Then this is my favourite peacock metallic paint. You've seen me use this before if you've ever watched me before, because it's so see-through. I just want to tint, this doesn't really matter, but the edges of those paper tabs are white, so there are white lines. And I thought, well, I'll tint it with some glittery blue. Then put the mask on. These are just called V masks, they're about £1.50. They always arrive broken, so you can try to return them and they say, I just keep it. So these are basically free, but don't tell anyone. As you can see, very cheap, they crack. They crack in the post. So I've cut down the bit I need and then I'm just repairing over those cracks with some goth glue. Maybe not the last repair they'll require. I'm going fully upside down at how foreshadowing that is. I don't want to ruin my head, so I'm just a slightly serial killerish way wrapping this face in cling film and then putting the mask onto it for painting and foam clay. There he is, ready to go. Again, back to the eyes. This is all in perfectly chronological order, so now that the iris paint has dried, I'm melting out the pupils of the eyes with my pyrography prong and then using a craft knife just to cut away the edge. They're not crumbly dumblies, they're like melty schmelties. Melty lumps, and then colouring around that white edge with a Sharpie. This is, I want to address one specific viewer now. Dan does. Hello Dan. I know you're watching, I know you're there. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that recently I saw you use red wool as eye veins and I'm muscling in on your turf, as I've been trying to do for a couple of years now. I have proof that I have done this before. I can't remember where I saw it, but the red wool as veins on an eyeball technique. I needed some body parts, so I made a couple of eyes in a jar for a not particularly funny video I've put a huge amount of work into years ago, and it does work really well. Just fray out the end of some red wool, and I'm using gloss Mod Podge to stick it onto the eye. Let's sculpt. I'm not a good sculptor, I'm not a bad sculptor, I'm not a sculptor at all. In fact, there was quite a long time on this when I thought I was a bad sculptor. I thought, oh, I keep spoiling it. It's hard to use this stuff because it's so soft. But anyway, this is nice and cheap, nice and smooth. You can use talcum powder, like flour, to stop your rolling pin from sticking, or just flatten out a good wadge of it between a folded bit of greaseproof paper, baking paper, and roll it nice and thin. You could do some great textures with this. That back has quite a leathery, creased look. One of the lovely things about it is water, is your adhesive and your manipulation medium. So yeah, I'm just brushing water all over the mask and then sticking it on. And at first you think, wow, I don't know what I'm doing. But just keep going and you'll be fine. Also remember that the final thing of this is going to be covered in blood and gunk. So, you know, don't agonise over getting the skin tones exactly right, for example. But yeah, this worked out fine. I wanted a crease there, like a Matt Berry crease. Or John C. Reilly, he's another one. But then I realised looking at reference photos that that's when your eyebrows are down. When your eyebrows are up, there isn't a crease there. The eyebrows are up and the lines are across the top of the forehead. So you're learning anatomy and it's quite fun. Brief moment of being a good sculptor is using a wire brush to tamp in some pores, some skin texture. And any texture you put in it will soften a little bit as it cures. So you can be quite severe. Also these holes will all have, you know, Mod Podge and paint over them, so just putting lots of holes in so it doesn't look so much like blue tack. Then, as I say, we're chronological, so back on the eyes, the gloss Mod Podge has dried and I'm just putting on another layer over the wool. These are going to have that clear Ferrero Rocher ball over the top of them, so I'm not worrying about them being smooth, which is nice. I have a bag of moustaches. You should know that about me. And I suddenly thought, haven't I got a strongman two-piece moustache that would make some very good eyebrows? Grrr, oh, you took my moustache off. Comb those two moustache halves, and then I'm using some matte Mod Podge and just sort of getting a bit of texture, laying them flat, giving them a trim. He's not as angry as that, but we'll adjust that later. The eyes are dry again, so back around the edge of the eyes with a magenta Sharpie. And then it's time to fit the Ferrero Rocher balls over the eyes, and I've just sealed them in there with some dots of super glue around the rim. Okay, I'm topless in this shot because I thought I might be cutting the wig. It's not weird. I'm a firm believer that whatever clothes you wear to get your hair cut in, that cloth will be ruined. I have a hair cutting t-shirt that I put on when I go and get my hair cut. Once you get hair into the crew neck of a t-shirt, you're done. So that's why I've got my shirt off. So let's not talk about it anymore. David Baddiel as Robert Smith. Inspired casting. Disney intrigue. The Mickey Mouse t-shirt. After we'd seen the movie, I remembered this scene involving Benedict Wong and his character's husband, where Aunt Gladys visits them at their house while they're having lunch. It's all very lovely. And both characters were wearing Mickey Mouse t-shirts, in my memory. So I went back and they released the clip where Benedict Wong's character menaces Julia Garner and Josh Brolin after his transformation, and suddenly he's not wearing a Mickey Mouse t-shirt. That's weird. Basically, if you don't know, this year I think the first Mickey Mouse cartoon, Steamboat Willie, has become public domain, so anyone can use it. They obviously decided, well, these two characters are going to wear what turns out to be Mickey and Minnie Mouse t-shirts in the movie, and then completely lost their nerve. So in the trailer, the behind the scenes video I found where Benedict Wong is wearing a heavily censored Mickey Mouse t-shirt, and then some poor soul for this whole attack scene that they released on YouTube, and they did a good job. They did a sufficient job of removing the Mickey Mouse from his t-shirt, but what a pain. Just hold your nerve. They obviously didn't want to poke the bear too much, or poke the mouse, I suppose, and enrage the Disney forces. Anyway, iron-on transfer paper, good for either inkjet or laser printers. I found the Mickey Mouse image, a very small, very blurred version of it somewhere online, blew it up in Photoshop, used the cutout filter to make it more graphic and give it cleaner edges, and printed it out onto the transfer paper. It did get a bit chewed up at the first attempt in my wife's printer, so make sure it's very, very flat, because it is quite sort of leathery, plastic-backed paper. So spend plenty of time lovingly cutting that out with just a small white rim around it, then read the instructions and realise that the transfer bit has to be put face down, so the image is going to be flipped, so do it again. Can't find our little ironing board, that's how often we use it, so I turned a hoodie inside out, put it on my desk, and that's my ironing board. So iron your ringer tee nice and flat on the front. Don't iron it all over, obviously that'd just be a waste of time. Put your Mickey Mouse face down. It's meant to take about a minute at 180 degrees. This is about 3 minutes. The way the paper discolours and darkens kind of lets you know when it's melted. I think I slightly burnt the paper just there on the feet, and I slightly burnt the t-shirt actually, but it doesn't matter. And the backing paper does sort of rip off in bits, but it works pretty well. This is fun. It made me want to make more t-shirts by hand. Using Citadel model paints as blood. Alright, moneybags. There's the toothbrush technique with the thumb, but then I realised if you want something a bit more violent, smack the toothbrush against another toothbrush and you get some very satisfying spatter. And then I'm just looking at the reference photos for where there are blobs and just smearing on some hemoglobin and also some black bile. Then to slightly unfake the plastic eye coverings, I realise these don't look like real eyeballs, this is just for a sort of costume compromise. I'm using a very thin red marker pen, like a DVD marker, to draw some extra veins on the outside of the eyeballs. 3 days later. This is about 3 days worth of drying, and where the edges had been against the cling film of the mask, it was still very wet and like pasty underneath. So foam clay is great, but ideally I would leave this at least a week, because it goes like my Cantina Band masks I made in my first ever video, I think. They went rock solid eventually, but you sort of think, should I be painting this yet? You know, should I wait till next Halloween? So yeah, it's spongy, but after 3 days I thought, we've just got to go. I'm on quite a tight deadline because my wife and I are off to MCM this weekend. So tidied up the edge and then pulled, again, some greaseproof paper, one of the most useful things you can have in your shop, under the mask so I can paint off the edges with Mod Podge and paint and it won't stick. Going through and finding what might be useful skin tones, various reds, some Adriatic skin from TT Combat, some trench mud from TT Combat is a nice grey-brown, some primer and a little bit of green for those of us who are slightly sort of olive-skinned. And then even though you could just prime it white with Mod Podge and white paint before you start adding the colour, I thought, well, let's get in some practice and start mixing up a Mod Podge and paint mix to try and match my skin colour. Slap on, then texture. We're going for pretty heavy coverage here because of all those small pores and things. This colour obviously won't be particularly true once it's dried because it's going on over grey. So this is a dark underlayer where I'm just making sure it has a literal skin all over it, just stippling it with a brush and then stippling it with a little bit of sponge, which was better. Let that dry. Clock wipe means drying time. I've never explained that to you. You probably understand what a clock wipe means. It's to do with time. Then we're mixing up our later colours to respond to the tone of the ones underneath. So this is a paler, lighter skin tone because that base is a dark red. How to see if it matches your face? Put paint on your face. Cue the comments that say, never ever put paint on your face. Every single person in the world knows that. It causes the Tesla effect. Paint on your... you'll get Doppler syndrome. I don't know, it just seemed fun at the time. So I'm adding some drops of white and some drops of green because I'm a olive yet pasty sort of guy. That pretty much matches my cheek, I think. Let's not agonise over it too much. And then this is more of an overbrush where I'm not going into all the creases, so we're starting to get some built-in lighting of that paler, greener tone. And then, this is a first, using a smooth makeup sponge as my smoothening tool, and it's really good. You get a quite feathered edge. It's not quite airbrushed, but it's a nice smooth blended edge. And then because a face has a variety of tones on it, I've made a paler, lighter skin tone and a redder, pinker one for the cheeks. I assume once I'm wearing this mask at a Halloween party, I will be bright red and pouring sweat, so it won't match anyway. Another clock wipe, so time has passed, and this is a final skin of just pure matte Mod Podge. And smoothing it and tapping it all out with this makeup sponge again, which produced this really nice, faintly leathery, faintly dappled skin tone that's great. My only worry is that once the Mod Podge and paint dry, there will be a skin which will peel off from the mask at the edges. So as this, particularly this top edge, will be underneath the fringe of the wig, I'm just hitting it very heavily around the edge with the leftover Mod Podge that I've got on my palette, because it may as well have quite a reinforced rim. In vogue, I try to stay in vogue because I am a jet setter. These are eyelashes, and I lost a couple of shots. Basically, I stuck on the eyebrows and the eyelashes and then spattered some red paint, jam, cranberry sauce, whatever red liquid doesn't frighten you, all over the mask. And now I'm doing the black. So I'm using Nuln oil, some matte black acrylic paint, and also some skeleton horde, which is my favourite yellowy brown. There. So, it's all very well to use cheap masks because they're nice and thin, so they sit very flush to your face. But of course, there's a compromise where thinness leads to brittleness or brittality. So unfortunately, because the plan was to, once I'd made the mask, push the eyes in at the back, that force just made it crack all the way through. So we're going to fix it. EVA foam loves super glue, so a bit of super glue in the middle, and then I'm backing it all over with goth glue and self-adhesive foam, making sure to cover all that super glue with either goth glue or foam, because you don't want potentially reactivated by body heat super glue anywhere near your eyes. Someone told me about that on my Gorgon mask video, and it was a useful comment, because I didn't know that heat can reactivate super glue, which it can. UV resin on the outside, filled in those gaps with some red EVA foam on the back, and then UV resin, just titivating it around with my Gomji bar and curing it via the wonderful gift, where would we be without it, of intense purpleness. Nice. Very wet looking. And of course the added bonus is this is plastic, so it's really reinforcing the mask, which is now done. Oh, Gladys. What do we need? A pink suit, a lilac turtleneck, some very chunky green jewellery, a couple of options of glasses, because those glasses were about 90p, so I got both. A flower brooch, she always wears a flower brooch, metaphors, and a curly orange wig. Because Gladys, in terms of making, is just a wig and a twig, ladies and gentlemen. So starting with Gladys's iconic twig, these are the stems of fake flowers that I've had for years. They're very useful, plastic covered wire. So I'm picking out one thorny one. I think her twig she uses is blackthorn. It has sharp thorns on it. Twisting them all together and then using the most Halloweeny and ooky spooky of glues, goth glue. I wish Vincent Price could do me an advert for goth glue. Coating it in goth glue so it's got a nice skin, and anywhere there's a glue hair, just don't worry about it because you hit them with a flame and they go away. Giving that a skin of Mod Podge black paint and I think black pepper, just one of my classic texture paints, and then once that's dry, hitting it with a dry brush of, again, Trench Mud from TT Combat, which is a nice very muted grey brown. I think this twig is black really, but you want to give it some contrast so you can see what's going on. And then this wig needs to be wrapped in the personal effects of a certain character who I won't name. So it's wrapped in blue ribbon and a bit of golden wool. And I'll say no more. This wig, the iconic wig, the maddest fringe in film history. If you can think of madder fringes or bangs, then do let me know. Give it a good shake, give it a good brush. I'm probably brushing out some of the curls that are already in it. Gorgeous, just absolutely gorgeous. So once again, he's naked. I'm not naked. I've just got my shirt off because I don't want to get hair in my t-shirt. Don't make it weird. It's not weird. So trim, trim, trim. And I'm just pinning out a handful that I think is what will make up the iconically tiny fringe. Then I want this fringe, because this wig doesn't need to be cleaned or used for anything else afterwards, I want this to be really baked in. So I thought, well, let's just go crispy with it. So I've got Mod Podge, matte Mod Podge on my hands, and I'm using glue as a hairstyling agent. Wet the fringe, flattened it down. I also put in some orange paint, just anything that I thought would make the hair go crispy. I really don't know what I'm doing. I'm just enjoying it. So I put the glasses on and think, well, that's where the fringe looks about right to be. But if it feels wrong, my wife can just push the wig right up so the fringe is about there, and she'll look like the diva. Learned a new skill. Watched a YouTube video about how do hair curlers work. Nearly bought some hair curlers, then I remembered I bought a bag of them to use as greeblies or terrain or whatever. So I put them in, they were left in for about 3 days, took them out, and if you're going to Halloween dressed as Grace and Perry, stop now. But I have since, they haven't arrived yet, but I've ordered some finer, smaller hair curlers, which are arriving today. So you see the lie of editing. This isn't actually finished yet. Actually cut there, retake. So I put the small curlers in, which arrived, and it went really well. And the final thing I think looks absolutely perfect, because my wife and I have put the costumes on. I'm going to shave my beard so the continuity doesn't... Yeah, we haven't done it yet. And there we are. I liked the term marital cosplay, but my wife said I think it's couples cosplay, and she's almost always right. I realise I do talk about her an awful lot, but there aren't really that many other people I share my life with, apart from my wife and my cat. Although, no offence to my other family and friends. Thank you for watching this video. It won't be a viral hit, let's just acknowledge that. Someone once told me that for their short film company, if you have a thumbnail with a spaceship in it, it always does really well. So that's not why I made a Vogue on ship. I want to be clear, I am not that cynical. I do follow my passions and my interests. But I know that a mask and costume video won't be as popular. So just thank you for watching this video. Never mind all the way through, just watching it at all. So if you have watched it, the code word is fringe, which was a great TV show. Thank you also to the people who snapped up my small handful of Vogue on quote prints. There will soon be more available. You could buy one from me in person if you were to attend the Thought Bubble convention in Harrogate next month. I will have a stall, little half stall like I did last year, and it's just so much easier not having to post things. For that reason, thank you so much to the viewer who drove 2.5 hours to my house to buy my Red Dwarf Curry Monster book nook. Things are for sale if you come and get them. So yeah, message me if you'd like to buy any of my things. I respond to enthusiasm. You know, if someone said, how much do you want for your ... I'm willing to let these things go. Jabberwocky and my Curry Monster have loving homes, and I hear they're doing very well. It's like sponsoring a donkey. If you do enjoy my stuff, then that's absolutely lovely and I'm very grateful. You could like, share and subscribe. You could hit the hype button. I haven't mentioned that yet. There's a new thing called hype, but some people do hype me and that's lovely. Or you could sign up to my Patreon, just like Michelle or Michael Voilstecker. I researched how to pronounce your name, but you remained a mystery to me. Jesper Schill, Rob, Queer and Loathing, Steve Williams, Felix Duro, Cyanchi, Nicodemus Rat, TJ Cosgrove and Gerbera63. Thank you so much for signing up. It's a thrill, an honour and a joy. Anyway, I'm just rambling now, so thanks for watching, lots of love from me, and I'll see you soon. Hey, bud. Oh, I love you too. Once a wig reaches a certain rigidity, does it become a hat?